Welcome back. This is Tim Thiessen Live. My guest is Michael Turnipseed with Kern County Taxpaers Association. We're talking about rate structures with PG&E and everything else. Mike, tell our viewers, we always hear a lot about the Public Utilities Commission and all that's involved there. Why don't you kind of give us an overview of what the PUC actually does and what their role is in rates?
Well, they are the regulatory body for the state of California. And we mostly hear about it with, of course, electric rates. Mm-hmm. But it also covers your water rates, your limousine rates,
really?
Taxi rates. It doesn't, telephone rates. Everything in California that's regulated by the state goes through the PUC. It is a gigantic bureaucracy.
Wow. Tell me this, before we go into some of the nuts and bolts on the PUC. What would happen if the PUC just went away? Just say it just went away and this thing went to a market-based with our energy costs. Would that be a benefit to us, or do you think it'd be detrimental, or do you think the state's actually doing us some good from time to time when they have the correct information, or what's gives? I'm a tremendous, as you know, free market kind of guy where things need to find their own level in the market.
Historically, up and through 2000, there were two rates, Tier 1, Tier 2. And they were maybe a penny and a half apart. Mm-hmm. That system worked very well for a long period of time. What has happened with some of the laws where they froze rates so they had to add more tiers to collect the money, the PUC's job is to conduct public hearings and protect the public interest. Mm-hmm. But their hands have been tied not only because of the process, but because of the state laws that the legislature passed. AB 1890, AB 1X, and SB 695 have really tied the PUC's ability. Mm-hmm. So what we're doing now, part of the regulatory is working with the PUC, but the legislative side, we've introduced a bill a couple weeks ago. It's at Ledge Council right now. It's SB 142. Your buddy Michael Rubio is carrying it for us.
Not a problem. That's his job. He's our senator right now.
He's our senator, and he's very excited because he says, I pay those bills.
Yeah.
And here he is. He lives in a modest home, young family, beautiful little daughter. I think he's probably 3 or 4 now. Mm-hmm. And he said, my bill was $450. My wife works, the daughter's in preschool, and I work. So we're not home during the day.
Nobody's home, and it's still $400.
And it's a small home. Nice home, but small home. And he said, this is wrong. So we have a passionate advocate for this, and hopefully, and all it does is very simply says, notwithstanding any laws, the PUC do your job and establish fair rates. Mm-hmm. If they're insufficient, discriminatory, unfair, subsidized, just make them where it makes sense that they're fair. And it's very simple. It's only 5 paragraphs. So we'll see how it comes out by June or July when bills get done.
Okay. One date that you did mention here, Michael, is a little suspicious. There's a lot of things that happened in the state government about 2000, 2001, and that's really when we started our trip over the cliff that we're traveling down now. On these tiered rates, when they started to add these rates in, was that to compensate for rates that were frozen for specific groups of people, and they had to come to the rest of us for their money, or what has happened here?
It's all by usage. We were all Tier 1 and Tier 2 usage. If you have Tier 5 usage, you still pay the Tier 1 rate, the Tier 2 rate, right, as it goes up. Mm-hmm. What happened in the energy crisis back then, they froze rates to protect the customers. Mm-hmm. But then the legislature didn't unfreeze them. They just said, PG&E's saying, we need more money. Mm-hmm. I mean, costs are going up. We need to be able to, well, here's what we'll do. Don't put in the Tier 1 and 2 tiers. Let's keep those frozen. And they've actually been frozen since 1996 now.
Really?
Except for a 3% increase in 2010, and I don't know what the increase is this year, so that's probably another 3%. Over 14 years, a 6% raise. So if it's 12 cents times 6%, about, what, 0.7% raise, mm-hmm, which is nothing. In the meantime, over the 10 years from 2001 through 10, the top tier rate went from 13 cents to 50 cents.
Wow.
And when you show people that graphically, it's easy to talk like this, but when you see that graph go up like that, it's pretty shocking. And that's the ability to visualize and tell our stories why we've been so successful so far. And PG&E, while we went in not being their adversary, just coming in and saying, in fact, when we made our presentation to the Kern County Board of Supervisors, we entitled it PG&E Electric Rates 1996 to 2010, 14 years of legislative and regulatory failure. You know, PG&E, they're a contractor with the state. They're provided certain things to do the work. The state legislature sets the policies, and the PUC is the management or the regulator. And they say, yes, boss, you raise the rates. And there was never anybody supporting or asking the questions, why are the rates going so high? Because the advocates for the poor, the advocates for people that live on the coast, didn't want their rates raised. Because there are a lot of people at the coast don't have air conditioning.
Right.
So they never get out of Tier 1 or Tier 2. They didn't want to pay more. Well, our job was to make noise and scream and holler, and we did. And we had an effective story, and we were very lucky that we had a very good consulting engineer who's traveled with us to the PUC. When we're there, he's the smartest guy in the room. And that's very important when they're trying to, embarrass you and make you sound like you don't know what you're talking about.
Right. Well, that's standard anyway.
No, it is. It is part of the game.
These bureaucrats assume that none of us have the ability to think, and this is what has kind of brought us to this point.
When you go to hunt for an elephant, you better have a big gun.
There you go. Absolutely. Our good friend Senator Flores is now he has been appointed to the PUC. Is that correct?
No.
Okay.
No.
There was talk of that, though.
There was talk of that, and actually they appointed, instead of Senator Flores, they appointed the head of the TURN, which is the Utility Reform Network's top lawyer, Mr. Florio. And so that'll make it interesting because they have their agenda, and it's not our agenda, I can assure you.
Okay, well, that's going to make for more interesting things coming up there. One of my guests, John Hudson from the Fresno Nuclear Energy Group, was on. Okay. He's on my second show, first or second show. Anyway, very, very interesting, and a lot of this goes back to just poor policy, at the federal level and then here in California at the state level. We have a tremendous amount of pressure on our grid right now. It does take a lot of power to run everything we're doing, and we have, look around the studio today. We have lights burning, we have cameras rolling, Sean has 3 computers going over there right now, and on and on and on. We are a convenience-based society. I like the fact that I can go turn on the light switch, turn on the dishwasher, do whatever I want to do. And but our needs as we grow as a state are continually going up, and we have the biomass guys are getting fined right and left now that are generating power. The Fresno Energy Group, when they get off the ground, they're going to have the capacity to generate the cheapest and cleanest form of energy that we have, and yet where's this pushback coming back from the state? Do these guys just like high energy prices, or
actually they do, but actually for somebody else, because part of the reason for these higher energy rates. Let's punish the energy hogs that use more electricity. Let's make them pay more. Let's make it so high, in fact, that they'll go put rooftop solar on their houses. There is a big alliance between the rooftop solar industry, residential, and TURN and the Sierra Club pushing this conservation.
Right.
But when you mention, and you pull data out, and part of the things that we presented to them was the difference between Monterey and Wasco. And part of the thing is a thing from the Energy Information Agency, federal government, has every bit of information about energy there is. In a year, there are 59 times more hours above 65 degrees in Wasco than Monterey.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah,
and that shocks people. Well, they don't think anything about it. When it was 111 degrees this summer, it was 95 degrees at 10 o'clock. It was 56 degrees in Pismo, 58 degrees in San Francisco, and Ukiah was like 57. they're opening their windows, they're getting the fresh,
That's right.
clean air,
Looking
cool
for,
air,
looking for a jacket.
looking for a blanket, and here we are cranking the air conditioning because it's 95 degrees.
Absolutely. So, Sean, how are we doing for time, bud?
About time to wrap it.
Okay. Anyway, interesting subject. If you want to tell us real briefly some of the other things you're working on for Kern Tax right now, too, besides the PG&E deal, and then we're going to wrap it up here, Mike.
Our basic responsibility is monitoring governmental expenditures and programs in Kern County. I attend the Board of Supervisors meeting. We work with school districts on their school bonds, trying to help them make it taxpayer friendly as much as they can be, and also providing people for their bond oversight committees. We have 27 bond oversight committees of which we're participating in. It's basically overlooking government and making sure that the money is efficient, as effective as it can be. We've been around since 1939.
Great.
It was started by the Farm Bureau, and our job is to represent the interests of Kern County taxpayers.
Okay, very good. If you'll just stand by with me here a minute, Mike. We want to thank Mike and our other guests today. Remember, for all your real estate needs, www.timthiessen.com. I am at your service for residential, agricultural, and commercial properties. Next week we have Andy Nazaroff from Guarantee Real Estate. Our corporate office is going to be talking about what they're doing at the corporate level here in Fresno. And Craig Sharton from the Downtown Association is going to be here defending the RDA issue. This is heating up on this show here on a monthly basis. Chuck Leonard, stay tuned for him. He has a great show lined up. And if any of you see Mrs. Thiessen this afternoon, tell her I'll be home at 7 o'clock. We'll see you next week. Thank you so much.
CentralValleyTalk.com